So we've gone from 4 months to 6 months, now to 12 months. This whole project was supposed to be delivered originally in July 2020. We're now looking at March 2022. Now, I'm a Christian, but I'm annoyed. Welcome to the part of the week that matters the most. It's Wealth Matters, your wealth matters. Shit. I'm Warren. I'm a banker in the City of London, and I'm here to make wealth building simple and accessible. Today is a doozy, as they say. I'm going to take you through my nightmare experience, almost 2 years, guys, trying to purchase a property in Liverpool. I'm talking about why I am never going to buy off-plan property again. But before we get into the video, I want to start with a question. I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to ask you from the very beginning. If you were buying a property and it took 20 months, 20 months longer to complete than it was originally expected, would you hang in there and wait till completion, assuming you could legally, or would you pull out? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to tell you more of the story, and as this video goes on, I'm going to see if your opinions and your thoughts change or whether they stay the same by the end. So let's go back to the beginning. I've talked in other videos about a property that I'm buying in Liverpool. I've got one already there, and I've been waiting for this property to complete for over a year and 8 months, guys. I originally saw it back in March 2020.
This here is the centre of Liverpool. Right there is the city centre, or shopping centre, one of the shopping centres. There's a building right there. In front of that is the building where they're building the flat. Really good location, really central, near to the business district, near to all the bars. Really good.
And when I saw the property at first, went up there, it was at the beginning of the global health crisis, and that's going to become very important. I'm going to go into all of the effect that had on this length of time, but I saw it in March 2020 and it was off plan. In fact, let me give you an idea of the project. Here are some pictures on screen right now. It's a relatively large project with just over 100, I think it's 112 to be specific, units being built. It was originally a 1960s office building, and it's being converted into studios and flats. What they're doing is they're going to use them for serviced accommodation, guys. So it's actually very high yield. Well, it should be high yielding. So the structure's already there. They're not building from scratch. They're not putting a spade in the ground and starting from zero. They're basically converting. And to put this more into context, guys, I've actually bought from this agent before. The same agent who put this deal in front of me. He's the one who actually introduced me to my first ever buy-to-let property in Liverpool back in 2018. That was off plan too. That actually took 10 months. From me first seeing the property to me actually having the keys in my hand and completing. So done off plan before with the same person, so I trust this person. This story is very different to that one though, even though a lot of the elements are the same. So when I originally saw this property, it was going to take 4 months to complete. Touch your neighbor and save 4 months. So saw it in March and it was going to be done in April. Financial literacy channel, I can't even do maths. 4 months, so saw it in March and it was going to be done in July. And guys, we all know what happened in March 2020. We know what happened globally. The virus, whose name we shall not speak, took over the world.
The virus pandemic started in China, spread to Europe, and had reached the UK by the end of January.
To stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives.
People were beginning to find out what was going on in China, and of course, you know, sweeping the rest of the world. And again, if you've seen my video, my nightmare year in property, you'll know that I originally actually was looking in Doncaster. For those of you who are not from the UK but are watching this video, Doncaster is another city in the UK, further up north towards Liverpool. Some really good deals out there. I actually put in an offer and I got to the stage where I had the offer accepted and I was looking to take care of finance, went to a broker, introduced me to a lender. And literally, as this pandemic was starting, what we saw in the market was lots and lots of lenders just withdrawing their products. And if you had a deal at its beginning stages like I did, fell through. Watch my other video for that, but essentially what they did is that they came in and they undervalued the property massively and they linked it to the pandemic. And I'm like, either a property is worth something or it's not. A pandemic shouldn't take out the inherent value of a property, because if that same property was valued today, it will be worth what it was before, probably a lot more, because we all know that the property market has done that over the last 18 months. We've seen massive increases. Anyway, that's what happened. So because Doncaster fell through, I actually pivoted to this property that we're going to talk about in Liverpool. So let's talk about the first red flag, or call it a yellow flag. Completion date was in 4 months' time. We're in March. The original completion date was in 4 months from the date that I saw it, so we're talking July 2020. Now, we go from March to April last year, and we were beginning to see what was happening globally. The news was completely dominated by it.
I developed mild symptoms of the virus.
It was all we saw, we listened to for the best part of a year, right? We've never seen anything like it. So I'm getting to April and I'm thinking, wow, we've all been sent home from our offices. We're now working from home. There's a lockdown going on. Maybe this building project, this development project isn't going to finish when they say it's gonna. So I get straight in touch with my agent. I'm proactive and I say, hey, won't use his name here. I drop him a text and I say, how are we looking for that July date? Is it still achievable? And he messages me back and he says, hey mate, if I'd be honest, I think August, September is more realistic. Not ideal. We're now going from a 4-month completion horizon to 6 months. So, you know, not ideal. I like to think of myself as a patient guy. 2 months is no biggie. I'm well aware of what's going on in the world. No worries. We'll wait. Cool. I can live with that. And let me ask the question again, guys. You buy a property, they initially say it's going to be 4 months, gets extended to 6 months. What are you going to do? Are you going to hang in there, or are you going to be like, you know what? Actually, I can't live with an extra 2 months. I'm out. Let me know in the comment section below. And to be honest, guys, I had other stuff that I was dealing with related to the property, this time with the lenders. So I said before that with the Doncaster property, the lenders essentially massively undervalued it and I had to pull out of that one. So I've been lined up with a lender initially and we're getting to the stage where we get an evaluation done, and this lender does essentially the same thing that happened with the Doncaster one. My initial lender actually pulls out, and this is about a month or two before exchange. So I have an offer accepted, I've paid my reservation fee, I have no mortgage. So I had to scramble, well, my broker had to scramble to find a new lender. So we get lender number 2 in on the same property in Liverpool. They undervalue the property like the Doncaster one did. And they say it's down to, again, a lot of ambiguous, subjective factors. So they talked about the building materials of the development. They said, oh, it's non-standard, even though it was made of concrete. They talked about the demographics. So they said that because it's in the centre of Liverpool, it's a very small pool of people who would want to buy that property in the future should you want to sell it. Now, I'm not a property expert, but you know, I've been doing this for a while now. I've got properties up and down the UK. People want properties in city centre locations. Again, if I'm reading between the lines, guys, and as a credit risk, putting my credit risk banking hat on, lenders just didn't have the appetite to lend. So they were coming up with a lot of arbitrary reasons to not lend to perfectly eligible buyers such as myself. So anyway, what happened, guys, was that they undervalued and I had to negotiate the price of the property downwards. And this is going to be important as we get towards the end of the video when I give you my conclusion. But essentially, I had no choice. I said to my agent, I texted him, I said, look, either we negotiate the price downwards or I'm going to have to pull out because I have a shortfall in my mortgage and I don't have an extra 5, 10, 15 grand laying down the back of my sofa. So long story short, I managed to negotiate the price down. That was really handy, guys. Not gonna lie, worked out great for me despite the stress of it. So just to remind you guys, we're at August, September 2020 for a completion date, okay? Originally saw the property in March. They said July, 4 months. That's now been extended to 6 months. We get towards September, so around about August. The global health crisis is showing no signs of slowing down. It's getting worse. They're starting to produce numbers on death rates, infection rates. They built that hospital in, I think it was East London that they never used. You know, there were problems with like masks, all of the regulations come into place, a 2 meter distance. You're only allowed to go out for exercise. And we're essentially all in our homes, aren't we, guys? And, you know, we're working from home and all of that kind of stuff. So I shoot another text to my agent. I said, you know, if we were already delayed at the beginning when the measures weren't as strict and the numbers weren't as bad, where are we at now? Text me back. He says, hey mate, building work has stopped on the development. People, you know, you're not allowed to be within 2 meters of each other. You're not allowed to really travel. So we're now looking at March 2021 instead of September 2020. So we've gone from 4 months to 6 months, now to 12 months. Now, I'm a Christian. You know, one of the fruits of the Spirit is patience and long suffering. But I'm annoyed, okay? There's essentially nothing that he could do about it, that the builders could do about it, that I could do about it. It's one of those situations that's out of our hands. It's an act of God. But we're all human still. I am frustrated. How are you guys feeling at this stage, all right? So we've gone from 4 months basically to 12 months. Are you still going to stay with it? And bear in mind that there is a global health crisis going on, so you've got to be understanding of that. But pay the reservation fee. The solicitors have got your deposit, so that money is basically doing nothing for you. Are you going to stick in there, or are you saying, okay, no, I'm going to do everything I can to get out of this deal and go on to something else? Let me know in the comment section below. And let me add some more context, guys. I myself am invested emotionally in this purchase, and I always say take emotions out of property investing. It really is a lot more straightforward and a lot more effective if you do it based on numbers and quite clinical and logically. But let me tell you why I was invested emotionally, is I'm human after all. I really like Liverpool. I went to uni in Manchester. I already have a property in Liverpool, just 20 minutes walk away from this one that I'm looking at. Is perfect. Liverpool right now is the #1 performing city in the UK in terms of property growth. So I'm like, I've got 2 properties. I'm gonna have 2 properties in the #1 property city in the UK. The agent who sold me this property, he did me a favor. When I mentioned that I was going through some issues with regard to funding, with lenders, he actually worked closely with the developer to get them to extend the date of completion, because when you sign the contracts of sale, basically it has a deadline date for exchange, and if you don't meet that deadline date, they're entitled to keep your reservation fee and walk away and find a new buyer. And also, my agent helped me negotiate £5,000 off. So a lot of factors, guys, that are keeping me invested in this deal. And despite being a 12-month wait time, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see this through. I'm gonna see this through, because can't pull out now, surely. What are you guys gonna do? If you was in my position, what would you guys do? And sorry, in the background of all of that, we're also going through a global health crisis, right? People are dying. Industries have collapsed. So many people have lost their jobs. It's bigger than just like trying to get a property deal done. You know, the world's in crisis at that moment in time. All of that comes into your consideration. So we're now in 2021, right? We're heading towards March. I'm like, okay, we're almost there. But obviously, another lockdown came and went towards Christmas. I don't know if you guys remember that, but you know, Boris promised we wouldn't be in lockdown over Christmas. He did. And then the economy kind of opened up again February, March from memory. And again, we've just gone through another lockdown, and I'm thinking, let me drop this guy a third text and say, how are we doing? And guess what, guys? There's another delay. This time he tells me the development is going to be completely finished by August 2021. Warren, that's the date that we're working to. I'm sorry for all the delays that have happened up until now. It's been locked down. It's been terrible. They've been working so hard, but August 2021 is the date by which everything's going to be finished. I'm like, fruits of the spirit, Warren, patience, love. But again, now I'm getting annoyed. But you know, we have an end date. The light is at the end of the tunnel, as they say. And I think, just to add to that, guys, I think what was getting to me more than anything else wasn't necessarily the delays, because again, as I said, they can't be helped. They're out of our hands. A virus like this isn't something you can plan for. It was the fact that I had paid a reservation fee and the solicitors have got my deposit. That's tens of thousands of pounds just doing nothing for the best part of 12 months by then, right? It's just not working for you. Not even earning any interest. I know interest in banks is crumbs right now, but at least I'll be getting something. That money is just in an escrow account of a solicitor doing nothing for me. And I'm an economist, guys, so I'm all about opportunity cost and I'm all about returns. At any one time, your money's got to be doing something for you, you know. No return at all is probably the worst scenario you can be in. There's essentially nothing you can do about it. So that's what was probably most frustrating. It's not being able to do anything about it and not getting any return for your troubles whilst that's happening. So we come towards August now, and I dropped the 4th text and I'm like, okay, we're getting towards August. Sorry, by the way, guys, it had extended slightly from August to end of September. 18 months from the date that I first saw this property. 18 bloody months. Dropped him a text because it was getting towards the end of September and I hadn't heard anything from my solicitors or him or any agent from his company. So I'm like, what's going on, right? Get a text back. Actually, no, I didn't text, I emailed. And he didn't respond, which really annoys me. His office manager type lady responded, sent me a brochure, an update on the development project, so the progress of the development project. And I'm reading through it, and I see my floor, because there's a few floors in this development project, and my floor, I'm reading it, this floor is expected to complete in March 2022. Okay, so now I'm raging. This whole project was supposed to be delivered originally in July 2020. We're now looking at March 2022. How many months is that? That's 20 months, almost 2 years later than what it originally was supposed to be. I know the global health pandemic was a big factor in all of that, but guys, that is just ridiculous. And I'm doing everything I can not to send just like a pure venomous email back to these guys, because that is unacceptable. And the worst thing is, guys, I didn't get any update in the run up to September telling me that, oh, actually there's another delay and it's not going to be ready for another 6 months beyond that. Communication is key in these things, especially when someone is reliant on you. They're buying, like, a property is one of the biggest purchases that a person will ever make, and they're relying on you to manage the process for them, and you're not even communicating these huge delays to them. Add to that, guys, my mortgage offer, when you get a mortgage offer, it's valid for a certain period of time, right? So my mortgage offer actually expires in November, so I'm going to have to go back to the lender and renew that mortgage offer so that I can get it extended. It can be valid by the time it's actually completed. And I'm not sure if I'm going to actually have to pay fees for that. But my point is, when it comes to communication, is the agent should have told me that, because if I wasn't a proactive person, I just sat around and waited to say, I don't know, the end of October or even the beginning of November, could potentially be very late in the day for me to go and get a new mortgage offer. Should be okay, but it's a principle of communication that's really important. So guys, 20 months of delays. What are you doing at this stage? You must be ready to pull out, right? What did I do? Well, yes, it's almost 2 years late. Yes, communication has been really poor towards the end from the agent. Yes, I haven't had a return on that money in almost 20 months. And also the solicitors, guys, but that's a whole nother story that I'll save for another video. So I don't want to make this video too long. I don't want to turn this video into a Lord of the Rings episode, but we talked at the beginning about taking emotions out of things and focusing on the business aspects. So I'm going to tell you 2 big reasons why I'm still going to be, or 3 reasons actually, why I'm still going to go ahead with this despite the massive delays. And let me know if you disagree or agree by the end. First and foremost is I was able to negotiate money off of this property right at the beginning. I was able to negotiate 5k off. So that's instant equity from day one as soon as I buy the property, as soon as I complete on it, God willing, in March 2022. Secondly, over the last 12 months, over the last year, the property market in Liverpool is the best performing property market across the whole of the UK. So not only do I have that 5% instant equity, but I also have the growth that's happened over the last 18 months on top of that. So I bought a property back in, well, I agreed a price to buy a property back in March 2020 for 98,000, which was actually worth 103,000, which today would probably be worth, I'd say, another 10 or so % on top of that. So let's say the property is worth 115k today. I bought it for 98,000 pounds. So when it completes, I'll have round about 15,000 pounds worth of day one equity in it. And I've done nothing except be bloody patient. And then thirdly, guys, let me just quickly mention a thing called the long stop date. So when you buy a property that's off plan, you usually have what they call a long stop date, which is a date by which, if all the delays in the world that you can possibly think of happen, i.e. a global health pandemic, and takes us beyond the original date by which you expected it to complete, there is an end date in sight. It can't just go on being delayed forever indefinitely. So that's what the long stop date for, and it's actually for March 2022. So if they don't finish it by March 2022, I legally have an option to take my money out, and I get back my reservation fee as well. Yes, I would have sunk money on legal costs, broker fees, thousands of pounds, guys, but you know, you can't help these things, and you know, they're learning points as well. I personally am not going to buy off plan again. I, however, have learned so much from this process. I'm still praying and hoping, and pray for me please, that it does finish by March and I won't have to take the option to activate that long stop date clause and get my money back, because I would have essentially have wasted almost 2 years on this purchase. However, guys, you know, it's part of being a property investor. If it goes well and they do finish by then, I've got all that equity that I'm going to benefit from, and it's going to be a really high returning property because it's serviced accommodation. If it doesn't, I would have lost a few £1,000s, but you know, I would have learned a lot of lessons along the way. Hope this video was useful. Let me know your comments down below. I'll see you guys soon.